everyone with that familiar intro. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of Candid Conversations about network marketing. Hi, I'm BK, and as usual, my co host, Dr. Wayne.
Hi, BK. Hi, everyone.
Dr. Wayne was just trying to figure out where to point.
I was.
So, this is the right direction for me.
And that's the right direction for me.
Yeah. It's this thing about if you're seeing us live, and if you're watching us live, do help to comment below and just say that you're live, so that we know. Or if you're watching replay, just type in replay for us, right? Because we are now going to several platforms at the same time, and we also welcome questions. So if you do have questions, feel free to just type it into the chat box. And of course, if you watch it live and we can answer them, we'll try and answer them now. But if we happen to watch it later, then it might be a question for another episode, right, Dr. Wayne?
Yeah, my word, my word. The questions help a lot.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think, of course, the whole premise of why we are doing the show is to bring value to the community. And if we have a question, if you have a question that we can help answer, then obviously that should be of value.
Yes, yes. Yeah, very true. So I was trying to work out which way to point, trying to work out on these platforms.
If you're listening
um,
to us on the podcast, because we are actually also live streaming this,
yes,
so
yeah,
so
yeah.
you would be able to see us face to face. So if you do want to catch us face to face, please do hop onto any of our platforms where we are live, and you can really see us in real life or in person at least.
In person, yes. So last time, we always like to go through what we did last time, and last time was a couple of weeks ago, because last week we had a little break, and so last time we spoke about how to focus your attention to achieve your goals, and we had a deep dive into this, and we tagged it, if we want to use that word, with regards to one of the laws, and that was the law of mentalism. We basically talked about the law of mentalism, and for those who are first listening to this, the law of mentalism is the first law of the seven universal laws that we talk about in terms of how to achieve anything you want in life, really. But specifically, we're looking at network marketing. But when you really understand these universal laws that have been around for thousands of years, it allows things to become a lot easier, because what BK and I have found is that we all have resources. We have unlimited resources being network marketers. The companies supply us with resources. Our upline supply us with resources. But what we keep on constantly finding is it's not the resources that's the challenge. It's actually the 6 inches between our ears that actually stops us from moving forward. And last time we made a deep dive into how to focus your attention to achieve your goals using the first universal law, the law of mentalism. And remembering the law of mentalism is an immutable law, which means we can't change it, but what we are able to do is work with it. And the law of mentalism basically states that we are not separate, we are one with all the information that's available to us, that is always out there at any particular time. And we often joke that if we were in the 12th century, 13th century, that the information on how to build an iPhone was back then. It was already available. But of course, we didn't have the technology, so tapping into that type of information was kind of useless. But we had people like Leonardo da Vinci and others who were able to draw what was going to be a part of our lives in the future, because they were able to tap into the law of mentalism. And when we're able to tap into this law of mentalism, when we're able to use it for our advantage, we can then use that to focus our attention to achieve our goals so much faster. So we went into a deep dive into that, and if you want to look at that in more detail, please go back and look. Biko will go through how to do that later on, that's for sure. But please go back into our records and look at and open it up and have a deep dive into that. It was a really good explanation on how you can achieve that.
You know, the when Dr. Wayne is just going through the recap, the single word that flashed through my mind is the word imagination, right?
Yes.
Sometimes we have to let our imagination run wild, because sometimes that's actually the essence of creativity and so on. And if you find it hard to fathom, right, you just think about this. Every single thing that you look around you right now, anything that's created, whether is it your phone, your computer that you're listening to us from, even your mouse, your coffee cup, your table, your lights, they were all figments of somebody else's imagination before they
Yes.
became a reality, right? Somebody imagined that, hey, maybe I should do this, maybe I could do this, maybe if I do this and this and this, then this happens, right? So every single thing that is in existence today was actually previously somebody's figment of imagination.
Yeah. Yeah. And and I and that's probably a very succinct part of what we'll be talking about today, BK, because through our imagination, what happens is if we're able to, so think of it as a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 year old basically wanting to experience the world. And I remember, if dad said to me, we're going fishing tomorrow, I would be thinking about fishing from the moment he told me. I'd be going to bed, looking, trying to visualize the different fish I'd be catching, where I'd be going. He'd be telling me where we'd be going, so I knew the landscape. And in my mind, I'd be creating these landscapes of how many fish I'm going to catch and how much fun I'm going to have. Can't wait to be there. And you can feel that emotion literally coming up in your being as a young child. And no matter what it be, I'm sure BK, you can remember the similar things as well, and all our listeners can remember the same things. But what happens is as we get older, we don't dream, as you said, BK. We don't basically allow ourselves to imagine, and the more that we can imagine with intention of happiness and joy and abundance and gratitude, the more things happen around us that is so much more positive, so much more enlightening, so much more things achieve, so much more things achieved so much easier as well. So imagination is so important. Can you remember times like that yourself, PK?
I certainly can. I think I
Yeah.
mentioned this before where I wanted to buy my very first camera when I was like
Ah,
14,
yes. Yeah.
no, 13, yeah, 13. And I was just thinking of it the whole time, for the longest time. And of course, because I was so fixed on getting it, I did everything in my power to do it. Now, I didn't come from a well-to-do family at that time, so I saved and I did extra things around the place, just to be able to save enough for it. But and every single day, almost every single day, I would go to the camera shop and ask the owner for, hey, can I try that camera? And of course, after a while, he kind of knew who I was. But he still let me fiddle around with the camera and allow me to ask questions. And of course, along the way, I learned a lot of things. It's just this idea of being fixed and being very focused and being, knowing what you want, and then obviously putting in effort. In my case, was like going diligently, asking questions, learning. And then of course after that, when I started to use the camera, I already knew how to use the camera, right? And
Yeah.
then your
Yeah.
skills improve over time. um but I find that nowadays, sometimes as adults, we lose that kind of eagerness, right? That kind of childish or childlike innocence of wanting something, and then doing everything that you can to want it or to get it. These days, it was tough. You think about it, for a young person at the time, for me, with no income source, for example, that was something that, in a sense, is almost impossible to do. But yet, you could have, I achieved the impossible, and own one of these cameras on my own, right?
Yeah.
But a lot of times as adults, sometimes when we look at something and we kind of say, hey, no, it's too hard. No, I can't do this. Nah, I can't stand on stage to speak to someone. What happened to that childlike part of us where, if I want this, I'll get it done. I'm gonna get it done. I'm gonna go every day to the shop. I'm gonna save half my pocket money, to do this and so on, right? Sometimes I wonder, where did all these things go?
I think it's life. I use the analogy that we're born like a beautiful apple. So think of whether it be a Granny Smith apple or red apple, that part's irrelevant. So just visualize the apple that you like, right? That's how we're born. We're born as this beautiful apple, complete and just glowing with life. And then what happens is as we go through life, there's pieces taken out of the apple. So these are our emotional things that happen all through our lives. And some people, unfortunately, when they get to a young age, they can actually only, their representation of life is an apple core. The wholeness of that apple now has been emotionally changed because of life circumstances. And what happens is we go back to the young person that BK was talking about, and even myself looking at fishing. There was no but. This is what is going to happen when we're young. We visualize something as if it is our reality. We just keep on visualizing, going to the shop, doing it, being it, and then we end up with it. But what happens is as we go through life and as we become maybe a little bit older, then what happens then is these bites of emotional upsetness or whatever they may be. What happens then is it's like remember the push me pull me llama. You know, you got two heads and one's trying to go this way and the other one's trying to go that way. So one's trying to go to the left, the other one's trying to go to the right, and they're not going anywhere. So if you're saying to the universe that you want to be a certain rank in network marketing, and then there's another, that's the one going to the right. If we're using this push me pull me llama example, you're going to the right, you want to become this network marketer who's has a great rank. On the left hand side though is this other party. You go, no, that's not going to happen. I don't know if I can do that. Gee, all the things I have to do, I don't know if I want to work that hard. I'm an overwhelm, whatever they may be in terms of the little negative thoughts that may be there. What happens then is the law of attraction is going, what it listens to is the strongest emotion. So the law of attraction does not mind, does not care what it attracts to you. What it looks at is what has the strongest frequency, what has the strongest emotion attached to it. Our physical body is where these emotions are held. And this is why we feel it in the physical body. So when we feel it in the physical body, as a negative, what happens then is the law of attraction then goes, oh, you really don't want to go up in the ranks of the network marketer. So I'm going to actually keep you in the lower ranks because that's really what your subconscious thoughts are actually telling me. Because on the right hand side, the positive emotion of you wanting to rank advance was far less than the one on the left. And this is so important to really understand. So think of it, we've spoken about it before. If we think of the the law of attraction and the law of resistance. The law of resistance is so much stronger because what it does, it attracts to you that which you don't want. And that is a subconscious memory that unfortunately has been locked within the brain that we need to unlock. And it's only through talking about this awareness, getting the frontal cortex to be aware of this information, because when you're aware of it, the interesting thing about the frontal cortex, it's like a CEO of a company. What it does is once it's aware of something, it will then go, what can I do to try and fix this? What can I do to help me to become that rank advancement rather than thinking about the negatives all the time? So if we can go back to that childlike nature and only think of what we want, and in a way that brings tears and tingles through your spine, as you would do as that young child, as BK said, as a 13, 14-year-old. Imagine the emotions that you would have felt, BK, of joy and happiness every time you walked into the shop. I'm going to own this. You would have tingled, and at times, I'm sure at night time, you might have even teared up because of if you did, when you do end up with it, how you would have felt in gratitude. Not that those words would have been real back then, but you would have been felt so good when that actually occurred.
Yeah, like it's quite funny when Dr. Wayne was talking about the prefrontal cortex because uh it's kind of like if you have ever done this exercise before, if you started to write down, and this is actually one of those things that you can do, right, Dr. Wayne? If you want to achieve something in life, whether is it a position in life or a rank in your company or buy something, for example, it's a good idea to write it down. And the moment you write it down, say for example you wrote down a red Lamborghini, right? And then you start noticing that you never used to notice them on the streets, right? But the moment you wrote it down and then you start going out in the streets, you start saying, "Hey, that's a red Lamborghini." And then maybe an hour or two later, and then it appears another way somewhere again. So it brings to it brings literally to front and center of mind, right?
Yes.
Whatever
Yes.
you desire, the kind of things you desire, it actually brings to mind, And I was just talking to a friend the other day, and they were talking about how this friend was starting to do a little bit of live streams and so on. And then she was saying that it started to open up doors for her, right? People are connecting with her. And I was just sharing with her that you will be surprised as you start to do such things like being actively pursuing the things you want, whether is it through doing a live stream or podcast or things like that. What will happen is that you start putting out fillers into the universe, and then the universe starts to bring people to you, right? Starts
Yes.
bringing people to you. So it starts connecting the dots for you, because you start to tell the universe, hey, this is what I want, right? And then you start to notice that people are connecting with you from out of the blue sometimes. Friends you have not seen for 20 years, they're suddenly connecting with you because you know the universe got your message. You got your message that, hey, you want to do something, hey, you want to achieve something. So that's how I was telling her. I said, yeah, it seems to be happening.
Yeah. And just to go over, which we've spoken about before in many podcasts before, but the four steps to achieving goals, remember, is one, to, okay, what do you want? And number two is, as BK said, is to write it down. Number three then is to visualize it. But most people don't do number four, which is visualize it with emotion. And this is the most important thing, because what happens is the emotion turns it into a frequency, and that frequency, remembering, is information. On that, within that information then is the very thing that allows you then to achieve it. But if you don't put that frequency to it, where it's just a visualization without the emotion, the law of attraction doesn't know what to give you. And especially if a lot of your pieces of apple core that has been taken away in the subconscious beliefs are not where they should be, then you'll be basically in a plateau. You'll be going, why haven't I achieved this? Why hasn't it come to me? And the reason is because of that last bit, which is the emotion. So, and even then, like the really important is to try all the time, to just feel gratitude, love, joy, happiness, freedom, whatever word or words feel real to you. Try and get that feeling into your being so that you can call on it at any time. And if you are able to do that, you'll be amazed at how you can change your future reality, or what may be about to happen in the future, by just doing that. And you'll find that a lot of your goals will actually be achieved so much earlier, because remembering the law of abundance goes something like this, or the law of attraction. Once you actually think of something and you do those four steps that I've said, the universe has already given it to you. The information field, the frequency of that information is already there. Anything that you can think of is not new to the universe. It already knows what it is. It has a frequency, it has an information field about that. What happens, the next step is, what happens is we get in the road because of this push me, pull me thing that goes on in our brain. If we can get rid of this, if we just call it the left-hand side, which basically is this pessimistic side, or the apple core that has been, the bits of the apple that's been taken out because of negative emotions, if we can get that out of the road, the law of attraction works like a magnet. It just comes to you, whatever you've thought about, whatever you dreamt about. If you do these steps, all those things come to you, whereby, and I'll be talking about the two things that will help 95% of network marketers succeed, or to put it another way, why only 5% or less of network marketers, or even entrepreneurs succeed, because the 5% or less who are succeeding are doing these two things. And we've kind of talked about it in what we've already said, but we'll go deeper into it shortly, BK. But it's a fantastic topic, and it's, I even sent a text to someone on the weekend, just saying, "How you going? At present we're just playing some golf with the boys and having a really good time, and the text back, basically there was four things that was all negative and just said, yeah, we're having a good time as well. But it was four things like, work's not going so well. This is not I'm going, oh, okay. So when you read that type of thing, what it does to me, um, it allows me to see where that person is and why it's the things that they want is not being attracted into their life. And it may seem difficult to understand, but everything that happens in your life is a thought first. And the more that we can make that thought around happiness, gratitude, freedom, whatever one of those or combination of those that feels right to you, the more that our life can change. And we can be a part of this 95% where we can grow it further and further so that rather than be 95% of people who don't succeed, we'll be one of the 95% of people who do succeed, which is pretty incredible. Hey, BK.
Definitely. It's not
Yeah,
the and you notice that the people who do succeed, they just do simple steps repeatedly, right? They just do the simple things repeatedly,
yeah,
and it builds upon itself. And I think sometimes we kind of shortchange ourselves and think that it's actually extremely hard, right? Anything that you are a master at, is it starts with you being focused on doing simple things repeatedly. And of course, once again, why we have always said that this is probably the most near perfect. Nothing is perfect in this world, but I would say that this is near perfect business system, because everything is there for you. Systems are there in place. Coaching is there for you if you need it, right? And the
yes,
nature of the business is something that you are naturally good at, which is sharing something with somebody, right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
so natural for people like all of us, as long as whenever we meet, whenever we encounter something that is seemingly fun or useful or funny, or interesting, we have a natural inclination to kind of just, hey, tell a friend, right? So network marketing is exactly that. Network marketing is exactly that, right? And it's not, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to succeed. It's just that sometimes, like everything in life, and I think we mentioned this a few times in our podcast, that to be honest, this podcast, while we started it for network marketers, but I think a lot of the principles here apply equally well to anyone who's starting
they
a
do.
business,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Anyone who is in an entrepreneurial endeavor, right? Doing something to better yourself in terms of business and all that, right? Whether you are starting out, it works because the principles are essentially universal, right? The principles to succeed is essentially universal.
And it's exactly the same for the business who may be turning over $1 billion a year. Like if they can tap into this information, they can then turn it into a $10 billion a year. So it doesn't matter where you are on the scale of your evolution within a business, whether you're starting out or you're the CEO of $1 billion company. These universal laws will help you to get to where you want to get to at a faster, more ethical, more, if we use the word ethos, way as well, more moral code way as well.
And in fact, if you look at what Dr. Wayne, or you listen to what Dr. Wayne is saying about how you need to be focused and visualize what you want to achieve in the future, pick up any of the business success books about any of the companies that are doing very well right now, and you will almost always notice that right at the beginning of the company, when the company was like zero, right, starting out, the founder, the founder or the founders already had a vision of where they can be or where they could be, right?
Yes,
And of
yes,
course, that's where they are today, right? Of course, along the way, were there challenges? Yes, there were challenges. There
yeah,
were times when they needed to make minor adjustments here and there. They needed to make strategic decisions. They needed to go out of their comfort zone and maybe scale up even faster than they expected. But you will notice almost inevitably that at the start of the company, they already had a vision of where they could be, right? They could be in the future. And it's exactly what we are trying to say here, right? When you where you are now, and I like what Jim Rohn likes to say, which is human beings are the only living creatures in the world that can decide where they can be in the future by deciding where they want to be.
How simple, but how profound. Yeah. Actually,
So,
on that, sorry, go on, bigger.
so I was just wondering, are we, no, just wondering whether you're going to go on with this, the next
Sorry.
part.
Oh, the next part. No, I just wanted something that you tapped on. I might touched on before. I made a list of the pros of network marketing. I think a little while ago it was a couple of months ago, and I keep on adding to it. So I put it together, and it's interesting when you go through the pros, the positives, and when you look at the cons are the negatives are only a few. So what are the pros? Let's just go through them. Low cost of entry. Like the cost of entry for some companies in the network marketing can be $0 to $40 or $60 US, even up to if you want to buy different packs, it might be up to $1,500. But that is so low when you compare that to other types of businesses. Usually within your network marketing company, you'll have exclusive products. And if you can have an exclusive product that is disruptive in nature, you'll find that your company will be around for a lot longer as well. You've got business building support and mentoring. You've got no rental fees. There's no one you have to pay for rent, which is great. You can go global, like from where you are, you can do Zoom, you can go anywhere in the world, which is fantastic. Your growth potential is unbelievable. Low maintenance in terms of you might have a yearly fee in some companies don't, but maintenance is extremely low. Some is even as low as $30 US, some as low as zero, as mentioned. Shipping done for you, so you don't have to worry about stock or shipping. Websites maintained and done for you as well. Your income is paid weekly, so you don't have to worry about bookkeepers and doing all the different things to make sure you're getting paid. Depending upon your product, a lot of companies out there really don't have much competition. It complements both online and offline business, which is absolutely fantastic. So if you know how to do funnels and marketing funnels and do your different types of Facebook ads and different things within your compliance of your company, then it complements definitely complements online. And of course, we can do it offline where we're doing face to face or Zoom. And it's been often said that the network marketing business will be $1 trillion industry. Can be done part time, so you can start small because you might be working. You don't want to stop your where you are now. You just want to start small and do it part time. When you look at a lot of the companies out there, they positively serve humanity, which is that's really important for BK and I as well. You don't have to worry about staff or super or workplace health and safety. And there's just such massive self development potential. They're the positives. And if you look at the negatives are typically around I don't know how to sell, and I don't know if this business is for me. They're typically the two negatives. And the good thing about when you get into a network marketing company that then has good lead generation systems and different things like that, the selling is really quite low because you'll be getting your upline to actually help you as well. And whether you want to be in the network marketing industry or not is up to yourself. I get that. But once you understand, like BK and I, once you get involved with a company that's ethos and which we've described before, is where the ethos is incredible, etc. Then what happens? You'll find, like us, that it's one of the most cleanest businesses you can be in. That's for sure. So there are quite a few pros there. Hey, BK.
Definitely. I mean, it's almost a no-brainer in many ways. And I remember a conversation I had with a dear friend of mine back in China, and he's a traditional businessman. And you know what he said? He said he would never wish what he's doing right now, even to his worst enemy, because traditional business is hard, right?
Yeah,
Cost, factories, capital investment, staff, staff leaving you, staff doing things that was not supposed to be, and so on and so forth. And he was telling me that he would never wish this on upon his worst enemy, right? But network marketing is not, it has none of those things. There's none
No.
of those things. Is it perfect? I already gave a disclaimer at the beginning that it is, I would say it's near perfect, right? It's near perfect because a lot of the hassles of a normal business is removed from you, but it's still, there is still the element of human beings in the business, right? So
Yes,
you
yes.
you would have to learn how to manage people, right? Even though they are not working for you, they are working with you, right? So we work as a team, and so the necessary skills of being a motivator, a leader, influencer, and all those things are all necessary. But it's the same anywhere, right? I mean, if you start a company, you have to lead your team, you have to lead your staff, you have to lead your
Yeah,
company, right?
yeah,
So all these are things that you will naturally be doing anywhere else in business, in life anyway, right? Even if you are the head of a family, you are a parent, you're going to lead your family, you're going to lead your children, right? So it's the same. Nothing too exceptionally difficult about it. Just that's the whole idea. And the returns are way better. The returns are way better. Now, of course, the thing about it is that then, if once you're successful in this industry, you can always diversify your income stream into other things, right? Into investments,
yeah, yeah,
into putting up, it could be property, it could be other things that you are interested in. But because once you have a stable stream of income, right? So this is something that people don't really talk about, but it is something that is there, because once you have a stable stream of income from here, the next step for you, if your company is not talking to you about this, talk to your leaders. Or maybe we could do an episode on this, Dr. Wayne. What can we do once we are, maybe there's some of us who are interested in, like, what's the next step after you have a stable income stream from here, because reality, that is it, right? We should be able to do something else with what we are making from here, right?
yeah, yeah. That wealth generation is really important as well. Very, very true. Yeah, that's a good. Uh, yeah, that'll be an interesting episode.
And the thing is that sometimes you just need an idea to kind of let you go into the direction that you want. For example, people think that if I want to invest in things, I need to have, like, I mean, you're making big money. It's not true. It's not true at all. Even if you are making a stable extra $1,000 to $2,000 from network marketing, you can already start thinking about, because there's an extra, remember what I'm saying here, there's an extra $1,000 or $2,000. Say you have a full-time job, and this is your side hustle and your part-time income. If And then after, go and look at a property that needs to be serviced, loan payment every month is $1,000 to $2,000. Can you start buying that property? You can, right?
Yeah,
Because once you have an extra $1,000 to $2,000 from network marketing, you already can start. So it doesn't mean that you got to be making the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars before you start thinking about diversifying your income sometimes, right? And
correct.
sometimes when you share this with people and say, yeah, I never thought about it that way, you say, yeah, precisely. Because when it's a stable stream of income here, you can start to think about diversifying in other ways.
We certainly can. Yeah, that's a big topic, that one, but an interesting dive when we do it.
So, with that, I think we nicely concluded another episode of Candid Conversations. And again, because it's Candid Conversations, we can talk about those things if you're interested in it. Like, for example, how to the next step of your evolution as a network marketer, right? Diversifying your income. If that's something you're interested in, let us know in the comments, and then we are happy to touch on those things, right? And of course, like Dr. Wei was saying just now, if you want to catch our previous episodes, or if you want to dive right into the universal laws, you can see there's a link below. That's 5hiddenreasons.com. That's the numerical number 5, where we actually go into what is the law of mentalism, what is the law of resistance, and all those things very quickly, right? And of course, if you want to catch our previously archived episodes, please do check us out at networkmarketerpodcast.com. And that's at networkmarketerpodcast.com, where we actually have the previous episodes archived. Sometimes we kind of Dr. Wayne does a very good thing for us, and he always revisits some of our previous topics. So if you miss those topics and you want to catch them, don't worry about it. It's all there archived for you.
Excellent, excellent, BK. So just to summarise, remember what we started with regards to our heading. Doing these two things will help 95% of network marketers. And the interesting thing, just to conclude, to put everything that we've spoken about into a nice little summary. Remember we talked about this, the frontal lobe. I'm also just going to talk about the cerebral cortex because it's really incredible that they say from science we only use or have access to about 10% of it, and there are 100 billion neurons per human of in the brain of a human, of which only 15% are activated. So therefore, there are more connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxy. And this is what we're talking about with regards to the law of mentalism as well, because we're able to tap into this. And we possess a gigantic network of information to which we have almost no access. Now, that may sound negative. The positive is by using these laws, we can access them. And how do we access them? We've spoken about it in great detail. The two steps are with regards to being in gratitude, being happy, being appreciative, whatever way allows you to feel good about where you are, that is the first step. The second step then is to sit still for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You might call it prayer, you might call it meditation. Whatever the words are, try and sit still before you've read an email, before you've done anything else in the morning. Sitting still, meditating, contemplating on nothingness is so important to do. And then when you're going through your day, appreciate all the goodness that is actually happening around you. So just to sum it up there, BK, they're the two things to look at with regards to where we started with. Doing these two things will help 95% of network marketers, or as we said through it, entrepreneurs succeed.
Thank you, Dr. Wayne. And with that, we will see you next week.
Certainly will. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, BK.